Do you find it difficult to come up with content ideas for your podcast? Or perhaps you've gotten stuck during an interview with a guest where you have just nothing else to ask? Try Poddex today. Poddex is the best all-in-one podcast idea generation tool. You get everything from episode ideas to interesting conversation starters for interviews, engaging discussion topics for your live streams, and even social media content ideas. With this tool, you don't have to spend weeks trying to come up with content for an episode or unique questions for your guest. Just shuffle the cards and pick one at random, hit the record button, and get started. Now you can make better content, have more fun while at it, and get your viral moment, all with Poddex. Head over to poddex.com and use code C4C at checkout.
Welcome to the Urban Educator Forum with your host, Sean Smith.
Welcome to the Village. In our first episode, we pay tribute to my first mentor in education, Dr. Irvin Vance and the Young Scholar Program. Former students and staff will have a candid conversation about how the program affected their lives. For our listeners, I want you to take away key components that made the program thrive. The Urban Educator Forum podcast. I'm your host, Sean Smith. And this episode, we're talking about the NSF Young Scholars Program and also a tribute to Dr. Irvin Vance, which is the creator of this program. I'm going to let the participants introduce themselves, and they're going to tell their story. And we're going to first start off with Danita.
Hello, thank you so much, Sean, for inviting me to be a part of this. My name is Danita Caldwell, and I was in the program in 93 and 94. So that was 8th and 9th grade for me. It was a great experience for me. It really changed my focus and vision on how I viewed mathematics and science. I remember being a part of the program and saying, I wanted to be a genetic engineer. And I never would have thought that that was possible had I not been a part of a program such as the Young Scholars Program. I don't think I directly met Dr. Vance, but what I would say is, thank you to him for having this vision and just creating a platform for a program such as this. I believe I was, so my hometown is Muskegon, Michigan. I know I was the only one from that area. Majority of the students in the program, I believe, was from the Detroit area. And so it was a different world for me, different experience, but I appreciated having that and just really being able to bond with the other students in the program. Today, I'm in the world of supplier diversity. I am the Director of Supplier Diversity for the Austin Independent School District in Austin, Texas. I've been in this space for over 15 years now. So I have a passion for diversity and inclusion, and especially ensuring that our minority women-owned businesses have equity in the contracting space. So thank you again, and I look forward to the rest of the podcast.
Thank you. Well, before you go, give me one juicy story from the NSF program.
Juicy.
Or a fond memory. How about a fond memory?
Okay.
We're going to keep it PG.
We're supposed to keep this positive. Let's see, a fond memory. I would have to say, I really, kind of mentioned this before we started. The talent show was so much fun. So for me, that is one of my fondest memories of being a part of that talent show and being able to work together with my friends during that time. So that would be my fondest memory.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Danita. Miss Griffin, you are next.
Good evening, and thank you, Sean, for inviting me also. And I was with the program at its beginning. And so let me tell you how that came about. I actually had just graduated from Clemson, and I had taken a job at Morris Brown College in Atlanta. And Atlanta's expensive. And so I got an apartment, but I didn't have a summer job. And so I went to Morris Brown to sign my paperwork, and a call came in that day, and it was Dr. Vance. And he was trying to create a staff, and he wanted it to be multicultural, and he was missing a Black woman teacher. So he said, I know Atlanta has to have a Black woman teacher. So he called Morris Brown first because, you've got Spelman, you've got Morehouse, you have Clark, but Brown starts with a B. So he started with Morris Brown. I was there that day, and he told me, he said, well, send me your Vita. And I just said, okay. I had no idea what a Vita was. I looked it up after I got off the phone. And, because he told me, well, do you mind moving to the Midwest? And I said, no, I'm from the Midwest. And he told me how much he was going to pay me, which was, took care of my rent. And I also asked him, could I stay in the residence halls, because I didn't have any place to live. So he said that he would give me room and board. And I just asked him that I did not have a roommate, because I said, I don't want a roommate. I don't want to stay with the students. But that's how our relationship started. So he bridged that gap for me financially. And then I went back to Morris Brown and worked at Morris Brown. What other thing that happened, just so you all know, is I met Dr. Charles Roberts at the time, and he was another one of the math teachers. And so we worked well that first summer, and then I came back the second summer. And the second summer, Dr. Charles Roberts asked me at the end of the summer, how would you like to work at Michigan State University? And I said, what, next year? He said, no, next month. And I had to make so basically it was the end of July, and I had to make a decision, and I moved from Atlanta basically in less than 1 month and started working at Michigan State. And so I have been teaching at Michigan State now for over 30 years. And I have worked I came here with Dr. Charles Roberts brought me here through Dr. Vance. And I worked for Charles Drew. At that time, it was called Charles Drew Science Enrichment Laboratory. And now it's Charles Drew Science Scholars. I also worked for Vetward Bound. And I also worked for the Engineering Science Success Academy. And all those programs look at taking students from where they are to where they need to be. And that was important to me because I went to Purdue. And first of all, before I went to Purdue, I'm from inner city Chicago. And I was in a program in Illinois, at University of Illinois, that was similar to Young Scholars. And it made me get focused on engineering because my undergrad degree is in engineering. And then after that, when I went to Purdue, I was in the minority engineering program at Purdue. So that led me into Charles Drew because I wanted to give back what was given to me. And so with that in mind, that's how my journey went. Starting with Dr. Vance making a random phone call, old fashioned way, down to Morris Brown looking for a Black woman math teacher.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you the same question. What is one of your fondest memories of working in the NSF program?
Fondest memories, and it's so bad if we don't say anything academic, but I think it's what we were talking about. We were talking before this started, was being able to challenge students beyond what they thought they knew.
Oh, and you challenged them. Yes, you did.
So I have found these really hard problems, and I didn't even necessarily know the answers. I just gave them to the students. So there was one and this is something that you do in higher level math. I gave them, I said, I split them into groups, and I said, your group is going to count infinity. And they're like, you can't count infinity? I said, yes, you can. And you're going to go find out how to count infinity. And, and I found all these little strange problems. Or I said, your topic is topology. And they go, what is that? You're going to figure it out, and you're going to do a whole presentation. And so I still have old photos where they had to do this. It taught them about public speaking. It taught them about research. It taught them about that they could do more than they thought they could do, because all I did was give them a topic, And I said, go run with it, you know. And they were mad and frustrated and going, she's crazy, da, 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 da. And then it came out great. And they made up games, they worked in groups, you know. And so then I also think the other part that was important was I stayed in the residence halls. And so even though that could be frustrating, it made for great relationships with students because I was at the basketball games. I was at the talent show. I even looked at some of the talent shows, like they would say, Miss Griffin, can we wear this? And I would go, or Miss Sharon, can we wear this? And I look and go, no, I don't think you better wear that, you know. Or you think it's okay, then they wear it and you go, wrong choice. But I was at the talent shows, at all the extra activities, and that shows that you really care, because I do really care. You know, I believe that you can learn, and Dr. Vance believed that people could learn, and he went through a lot to get the money, you know what I mean, because he had retired from New Mexico State, and he ended up coming back to Michigan State to run this program, you know, and he believed it in so much that he wanted to make sure that especially people of color were successful, you know, and that they could be whatever they wanted to be, and that engineering wasn't beyond them or science wasn't beyond them.
Thank you. I'm hoping I'm still on. Speaking of, you talked about dress, I do have to give this story. Were any of you there when we went to Bob? Now, this is telling our age, when we went to Bob Lowe and we had the Bob Lowe incident. Yeah, shake it. Well, one day I'll tell that story, because as the counselor, I want to say that might have been my last year counseling. We had to strap up, and yeah, we had to protect the women because they pulled something on us. But that's another story.
Do you want that story actually in this? Do you want
part of that story? You can give a little bit of it. If it gets bad, I'll put it out.
I wasn't at that, but I was at, again, it was a talent show, and they said the song "Baby Got Back" was out. And they asked me, Miss Griffin, is this outfit okay? And them just standing there, the outfit was fine. But then during the talent show, and they started doing that "Baby Got Back" with them white jean, wrong outfit, and parents were out there. We're all going, oh my goodness, we're in trouble. And I think it was the same set. Was Alma in that group?
In fact, it sounded like the same outfit.
Yeah, so because I think when y'all went on the trip, they had the zippers up. And then when they got there, they took the zipper down, you know. And so yeah, I had approved of the white shorts until I saw what could happen in them, and then it wasn't good. The parents were looking kind of
all
upset.
Right, thank you. And anything, like I say, anything I can't use, I will put on the editing floor. All right. Ron, you are up next.
Good to go. Sean, thanks again for having me. I appreciate the invite and the call out. You kind of put me on blast on Facebook, talk about joining the call, but I'm glad you did that so I wouldn't miss it. So I was involved with National Science Foundation's Young Scholars.
Before you get started,
counselor.
What's your name?
Yep.
No, what's your name?
Oh, Ron Holloway. Sorry.
Your full name.
What you mean? What you looking like that for? What?
Your full
Ronald
name
Kent Holloway
with titles and all.
The second. Oh man, you want me to go MBA,
yes.
PhD, doctor this, doctor that, the whole nine? I was going to add that on as we went through. I'm not even used to saying it myself. Dr. Ronald Kent Holloway. The second, I could do that.
Like I said, he just received his doctorate, and I was sitting up there when he posted it. I said that's one of us. That's one of us, somebody. So that was beautiful. That's why I'm making him do that.
Right,
and we also got Dr. Jason on there that's going to speak as well. But yes, I saw that. He's the new doctor. The ink ain't even dried yet. But okay, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
You good. So I was going to tie that in later in the whole part of the story, the impact of the program. So as Sean, Dr. Ronald Kent Holloway II, I was a tutor counselor for National Science Foundation, Young Scholars. I want to say it was the summer of 92, 93. And to me, the appeal was I was a pre-med student coming to Michigan State University, and it was an awesome summer job opportunity. That's all I saw it as. I get to stay free on campus. I get paid a nice little chunk of change, and I get to watch a bunch of kids go through class. That's what I initially thought at that point in time. And then what it meant to me was interacting with youth, that the program basically positioned itself to be pre-STEM and pre-emphasis on STEM. So it was teaching Black kids. There was a few other POCs in there, but it was predominantly Black kids, immersing them in the college experience at that age. And I think the age was appropriate because it was middle school. It wasn't high school, it was middle school. So it got a chance to reach farther back and then show these kids what their lives could be if they made this choice, or if they stayed on that path, or if they did something different. Now, they were all bright and gifted, but they had that focus. And I think that's what that program was revolutionary about. So that's what I truly appreciate in retrospect. Again, in my 17, 18, 19-year-old, my mindset wasn't that way, but thinking back to what it did and what it meant to me, I was hanging out with friends, but now I can see the benefit for that. My best memories, aside from the social aspects, and then just watching those kids in the dorms, because this is the first time these kids have been away from home for the most part, but was study hall. So y'all were just wrong for that, because y'all put these kids in study hall at like 5 o'clock to like 7 o'clock in Wells Hall. And it's summertime.
7 to 9.
I'm sorry, it was like July.
7 to 9.
Right? Y'all had them kids locked down and they looking outside, and we sitting there working through problem sets every day. So, I mean, to me, it was fun because I wasn't going through it. So I would just be able to help them out and tell them to shut up and keep going and start focusing. For someone like one of you would have came in the room. But for them, that was just torture to them. And, I felt bad about that. But that's like the biggest memory that I had for that. And how this impacted me going forward was not only my emphasis and concentration on uplifting and supporting Black students. It happens in my work. It happens with my consulting firm I just launched, but also with education and the emphasis on education. So as my side job, I'm pivoted now, and I'm going to start teaching part-time. So in addition to the corporate job that I had that's full-time, I'm actually going to pivot and pick up teaching on the side as well, to give me an additional avenue. So I start at Concordia University in St. Paul, computer science and technology in fall. So I picked up a 4-credit class. We'll start that out. It's online, so I do it at night. But that exposure and that kind of gave me a little bit of a confidence to say I can't screw up somebody's life too much with the tutoring aspect of it. So let me try to teach an aspect of it, and it definitely beats corporate. It's a different experience. So that was a longer term impact and influence on me. So I applaud Dr. Vance's courageousness, because going through the world in 2020 as a Black male, I can't imagine what he went through to get what he had to get. So I can truly appreciate him and his efforts and the impact that he had on these kids.
I do want to talk about the study session that you said that that was cruel to them. Do you know, almost when I talk to students that I come across and things like that, that they hated it. They did hate it, but they kept it when they went home, because they said that study session, I know that this is the time I'm going to study, and I'm going to study, and they kept it. And some of them actually kept that 7 to 9 time frame, because we had to get them there to eat, and it was 7 to 9, and until the program ended. So yes, that was one of the things. Thank you, Brian. Oh, go ahead.
So I mean, no problem. That was one of my biggest memories, aside from the social stuff, is the academic side. Being in the classroom was those study sessions
when they had to drag themselves out of the cafeteria and walk back to where. Oh yeah. Gotta go. And that's when you gave it to them.
That schedule was tight.
That's when you gave it to them. And I just sat at the door and waved as y'all walked back to Wells. I said, I got 2 hours.
Yep.
Silence in the building.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's what I remember the most.
Dr. Jason, you are up.
All right. Good evening. Mr. Smith, thank you for reaching out. I'm just really honored to be here to, honor Dr. Vance. And listen, being a part of this program was probably one of the most important experiences I had being at Michigan State that has really impacted where I am right now. Currently, I'm an elementary school principal in Grand Rapids Public Schools, Coit Creative Arts Academy, and we're getting ready to be an international baccalaureate school in 5 weeks. And here's the thing. I never thought I would go into education. I never thought I'd go into education. By the time I was at Michigan State University, I had in my mind made up that I would never go into education. I loved kids, but I would never go into education. And it was based on a situation that happened in 6th grade back in Detroit Public Schools with a teacher that I had. But fast forward at Michigan State, I was a computer science major when I first started. And the opportunity came to become a tutor counselor with the math and science program, the Young Scholars Program, at Michigan State. And so I became a tutor counselor starting in 1999, I believe. And I think I rolled it out to the end. 2002 was that the last year, 2002. And it was a phenomenal experience. For me, I think I enjoyed all the nuances of the program. You had this really tough academic core that the kids went through. The fact that they were on campus for 6 weeks and not really able to go home, and being as young as they were, I thought that was one, phenomenal, but scary at the same time. And I worked with the computer science portion of the program. So for me, the complexity of it all was phenomenal. You had the classes, you had the study hall, you had, and one of my favorites was ethics. Remember ethics? They had the ethics session where we would sit and talk about these different ethical issues, and you really saw a different side of the kid when that part happened. So that was my favorite part. But what really put me in a position to be here is what Dr. Vance put together. Now, Dr. Vance put together this phenomenal program, and it was in that program where I decided to become an educator. I was in a situation where we were eating lunch, and I met a graduate student at lunchtime with a different program who was in school to be a principal, and I've never heard of that before. And so I started to think about this. I said, Dr. Vance created opportunities for kids from Detroit, Benton Harbor, Muskegon, Lansing. He created opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have. And in a math and science-based program. Like, this wasn't just fun stuff. This was deeply rooted STEM learning experiences. And you just don't hear about that. At least I didn't hear about that. I went to Detroit Public Schools. I went to Mumford High School. And to have a thorough program like that was, for me, unheard of. So being a part of that, I was like, okay, the opportunities are here. And this is how you close this opportunity gap in education. Exposure. And for me, the biggest thing for me in middle school, I went to spend time on a college campus at Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame. That was the game changer. So this experience, for me to be a part of that, was huge. Now, I was absolutely terrified of Dr. Vance. I was. Because he never really smiled. And to me, I didn't know where I stood with him when I interacted with him at all. I only saw him smile in front of the parents. And I always thought that it wasn't necessarily a real smile because I thought he was absolutely gangster, right? He had this pale yellow Benz that he drove around campus, this vintage, it was nice. And I was like, oh, he's an old school player. He's an old school gangster. And he would come out with his suit and he would walk the way he would walk. And that look on his face, he was so serious all the time. I'm like, I'm going to speak to him and I'm going to keep it moving. But what he put together was absolutely phenomenal. And to this day, I have relationships, friendships that are going to be long-lasting and lifelong because of those opportunities that he presented, not just for the kids, but for, I think, the instructors that worked in that program, the counselors that worked in that program, because I guarantee you, anybody who went through that program, who touched that program, can attribute their success today based on the interaction they had and experience they had in that Young Scholars Program.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I want all you all to come back. If you have anything else you wanted to add, we can do it. I think everybody, you can unmute unless I have to. Let's see. They should be able to do it. Yeah, you go. Any last and parting words? I'm going to put my story. I have a story with Dr. Vance. I'll put that in the beginning credits because you're right. He was gangster. I remember when I first met him, he wouldn't even look up from his table. I said, "Man, you asked me to come here. You will look up." But yeah, I'm definitely gonna put that story in there because I said, "Man, I'm about to walk out of here. You know who I am." I guess I didn't know who he was. He showed me, definitely. But any last minute, you got any shout outs of people that was in the program? Because you all, when this podcast is finished, I definitely want you all to broadcast it and let people know that you own it. And we talked about them and the program.
Yep.
Any last words before we wrap up for tonight?
Well, I'll say this about you all talking about he was gangster. I did something once that just made him angry. We used to have a parent meeting, the parent meeting, and I had told him, and he had it on Sunday, and I told him I wasn't available certain hours on Sunday, and he put my time exactly when I wasn't available. So I went to another teacher and rearranged his schedule. And so then I got a letter that said, now he always called me Sharon, but I got a letter that said Professor Griffin. And I opened it, and he was like, basically, how dare you? Then I took my acceptance letter of the job, I stapled it to it, because I said in my acceptance letter, I will accept this job pending I am not available on this day at this time. And then after that, he was like, he was cool. He was okay. But he, and then after that, that made us more, that helped our relationship because I stood up, I stood my ground, you know what I mean? And so then it was almost like, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of you, But then he would smile, after I started working there years later, he would smile. And my other story was, I looked up one day and he's walking all through in the math department. And I look at him and I go, you have an earring in your ear?
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he got that later.
And I said, what you doing with that earring in your ear? And he said, well, me and my girlfriend had a bet. And so that's why I ended up piercing my ear. I just was like,
Nice.
So, he just walked around cool, listening to his jazz. He loved jazz, he was a Sigma. He loved being a Sigma, but like I said, but he was serious, and they didn't mess with him in the math department. They did not mess with him at all.
They didn't.
They didn't mess with everybody else got messed with. They didn't mess with him. So.
Okay. Any other? Go ahead.
I just want to say, thank you to you all, because as counselors, we really looked up to you as role models. So you were who we, were looking to for that leadership. Me as, at 8th, 9th grader, to see someone who, for me, coming from Muskegon and where I lived, there weren't a lot of Black folks, let alone minorities in general, where I lived. So to see others who looked like me and what I thought to be leadership positions, that was just phenomenal. Y'all were great. So my shout out directly is to you all for being the counselors and for being great. I think the curriculum was just excellent. I can remember never receiving less than an A in any math or science from then on, in school throughout my entire remaining, being in school. So it was really, again, a phenomenal experience. I think I had, I remember physics. I remember doing coding. I think we designed our own video game or something like that. I still have the floppy disk that we saved it on. It is a floppy. I still have it. And
Yep.
we built a rocket. I remember that, and just having that at the core. Again, it's just a testament to the program in general. And my shout out is to you all as counselors. So thank you.
Well, you can thank Sean because he's the one that kept us in line when I remember working there. So I'm just going to say that right now. So I'm going to take it back full circle and just say, from a legacy perspective, from what Dr. Vance's legacy actually is you, Danita, and it's all your cohorts and all of your student friends, all your friends that came through that. Because I'll never forget when I looked up and I saw you, and it was like 2000 something, and I'm with my crew, and there you are at MSU homecoming. I'm like, wow. And then to hear
Yeah.
about what you've done and to see your life blossom, I mean, I have to say, and as you admitted, that program was a key foundational input into your success. So to me, that's what his legacy is. Not saying that you wouldn't have done it without it, but I'm definitely sure it helped and helped a number of you go through and go forward in life. So that's what I'm most proud to be a part of, and just to be in that realm and that sphere at that point in time. So that's the most memorable impact for
Danita,
me.
you mentioned something. I'm going to ask you this question. Did the program influence you to go to Michigan State?
Yes. So first of all, I had my eyes set on a HBCU. I just knew I wanted to go to a, historically Black college university. My uncle was an immediate past president of Morris College in Sumter, South Carolina. So that was, thrown in my face, you need to come here. But so Michigan State really was not on my radar. And so once I, went through the program, that really shifted my thinking and what it could be if I were to go to Michigan State. And a lot of my family graduated from Michigan State, but 110% the decision for me to go to Michigan State, I attribute that to being a part of the program.
That was a gigantic byproduct of the program, because it really wasn't a recruiting thing, but when you got up there, people loved it. Nope. And when I go to homecoming, MSU homecoming, that's what I was going to do, the NSF reunion during the homecoming. It was so many people that I forgot, because I didn't, like, at a point I wasn't interacting with the students directly. That's what the tutor counselors were for. If they got to me, it was kind of a bad thing, although I did play basketball with them. I did some of the other things with them. But, that was a gigantic byproduct. Michigan State should have been paying Dr. Vance a little bit extra, because he brought in a lot of students of color, definitely Black, and they graduated. It was very few of them that went up there that did not graduate. They graduated. So it's a bunch of NSF young scholars that are also Michigan State graduates.
There were at least 6 to 10 that came in 97 with me, that was in the NSF program. And so that was also good to see. It's like, oh my gosh, we have this relationship, we've built it over, the program. And then now I see these same students, at Michigan State. So yeah, we had at least 6 to 10, I want to say.
Jason, you got any closing comments?
Yeah, you know what? I just want to give we did the tutor counselors and we did the students, and you know what? The program was able to run, because of you, Sean, and Cheryl Bobo. I don't know if how long she was a part of the program going backwards, but you were definitely the face of the program, the head of the program, and year after year, I came back. I did it for 4 years, and it was because of the way you ran the ship, the way you put things together, and the way you made us laugh. It just was a really phenomenal experience, and I just want to say hats off to you, because that program had to run. Checks had to be cashed. People had to be hired. tutor counselor needed days off, and all these things had to be put together to make this thing work. So shout out to you, and shout out to you for bringing us together to make this happen, because it's definitely something super memorable. And I'm enjoying this panel right now because I'm able to live through, what Danita went through as a student, and sharing all her pictures and all her experiences as well, and then what Ron brought to the table as well. So thank you, man, for making this happen.
I know that's right. So yeah, let me go on Jason's point, Sean. I mean, I think the Young Scholar output was one benefit of the Young Scholars Program, but also the impact on us tutor counselors, because there's a number of us that went through that, and we are changed for the better. I can say that for myself. James, you talked to your experience about education, that path, and interaction with Dr. Vance. But Sean, you and me used to go back and forth, man, and you were impactful on me in my life. And music acumen, we used to go back and forth on jazz and who knew jazz the most. We talked trash about basketball. We played basketball. So, I mean, as a Black male in that environment, right, the more I had around me, even in Michigan State at that point in time, the better. So that's another byproduct
Well,
of
thank
that
you.
program.
And I actually learned that. That was one of the things that I learned most from Dr. Vance was putting together that team. You had to have some superstars.
Yep.
And at the beginning, Sharon was very influential because she would send me people when I had to do those interviews, and that were quality people, because you have these babies. We had 60, the biggest we got was 80 for 6 weeks without parents. They couldn't go home. So I was looking at character, and shout out to Zena Brown, that was one of the female counselors. Who else? You said Bobo.
Linda Wood. Remember,
Linda
before
Wood was the first, the original.
And Mr. Talley.
Mr. Talley. Y'all too young about it, but if we ever talk about Quantum Leap and his speech about Quantum Leap, that was memorable. I might give a little more details on that one, but yeah, that was memorable. I said, unbelievable, because Tally used to call these meetings. I said, man, this has nothing to do with me, man. Would you please go talk to the ones that this pertains to? So yeah, so all of those people, I'm missing somebody too. I'm missing one. Like I said, you mentioned Miss Bobo. That she was one of the lads. Zena was one. Mr. Harris.
Okay.
Because Mr. Harris was there when I got a break, and I did the teacher program until the asylum ran amok, and Dr. Vance said, you gotta go back, man. You gotta go back and watch and see what's going on with them. So yeah.
And I'll even mention Mary Reynolds, because she was the administrative assistant, and Mary would not smile, but her and Dr. Vance were like this. And matter of fact, when he got sick, Mary was talking to me because we were concerned and worried about him. You know what I mean? And we were trying to find out information about him. And so, but she's the one that made sure y'all got paid. She might have been fussing and frowned at you, but she made sure everything ran. And if anything did happen, she actually defended, the program. She defended Dr. Vance. Now, she wouldn't act like that in front of him, but she did.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, she did. She took care of the administrative stuff. That's why y'all got paid on time. It might have been one time that the check was a tad late, but that wasn't often. I would like anyone else before I close this out, at least the recording part. I want to thank you all for coming back. Did it freeze? Y'all look like y'all froze. Oh, y'all still okay. I like to thank you all. I'm gonna keep it the low tenor. That's why I want it. We having a conversation. Want to thank you all for coming on and reminiscing about the NSF program, because it's still one of the most powerful programs I have ever witnessed, and being a part of it, that played a big role in how I operated, because he operated in excellence, and he wouldn't lower that bar for nothing. So I'd like to thank you all for, again, participating. I'll let you know when this podcast is debuting. I got a lot of work to do, so I appreciate you all, and you all. And let me say this: I am going to do the NSF group, so get all your friends, collect all your pictures. I even found a program that I can scan the pictures, and I got boxes full. So Sharon, if you need me to come up there and do yours, I will do yours as well, because
you gonna do?
I got boxes full of that stuff, and I need you all, because I can't remember people's names, because it's been hundreds, probably maybe close to 1,000 people since I was since I worked the program. So again, thank you all. I appreciate it. And I will please keep in touch with each other, because we got. So and I miss you all. I appreciate the work that you put in back then and what you're doing now. I smile every time I see y'all posting and things like that, and I got to keep up with Sharon, because Sharon's the NSF pro person that never left. She left 1 year and stayed there, and 30 years later, she's still teaching at Michigan State. So again, much love to you all, and
I'll say that. Let me say this, Sean. You saying that. The reason why is Dr. Vance and Dr. Roberts were the 2 Black professors that brought me in. And I am the Black professor in mathematics at this point, and have been since Dr. Vance and Dr. Roberts both retired. Wow. So part of that is a responsibility that, even now that I'm teaching large classes, that's why I'm okay with that, because I need students in large classes, students of color, to see somebody of color. And so, and I'll say this, and you can cut this out of your recording, Sean, but one of the things that last year they gave me a special project where I didn't do STEM students. I had art majors, music majors, political science, advertising. And see, normally they would never see me, but it was a blessing because I ended up meeting students of color. One of them majored in music. I'm still in touch with her. Another one advertised. I got to meet them, and they would have never met me because they weren't on a STEM track. And it made them be comfortable and get through math, and they really don't understand math. They're just taking math to get beyond it. And so
credit.
Yeah, right. And so part of that, just to say, those 2 men, and I say this, God used those 2 men to bring me to Michigan State so that I could be. Mike Grimes said this to me once, and then I'm gonna be done talking, because I can talk a long time. But Mike Grimes said, Sharon, you're gonna be there till you help the last student that you're supposed to help. And I don't know who that last student is. And I keep thinking, Lord, is it time? But I still don't feel it's time. And so I thank God for both of those men, Dr. Charles Roberts and Dr. Irvin Vance, because they're the ones that were basically, brought me to Michigan State so that I could be a help. And I could show people just, that you can be this color, you can be from inner city, because I'm from inner city Chicago, I'm not from a suburb. You can go to a standard high school and you can succeed. And that's my point. Okay, I preached that, y'all. I'm good. I tell
and she think I'm not going to use that, because that's where I'm going. That's that representation, and that was he was very, 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 very intentional with that. In fact, he would smack people in the math department in their face with that. So he went out and got it. He used some other professors too that were allies, and they were good as well. But he did go intentionally to do that, and that's you being the only one there. I understand that, because I'm the only one at LCC. And that's another podcast at another time that we will talk about. But yeah, I understand that, and you doing your thing, and they appreciate you and we appreciate you as well, because you great, and that's what you do. And that's what I tell people. I say that's what we do. You know, we don't settle
Right.
for nothing less than excellence. And you can do it because we did it. You know, I'm from Pontiac. You know, how many professors come from Pontiac? But we there. And because and you all got your own stories, you know. So like I said, Jason wasn't even got talked into education. And again, looking at him and interacting with his kids with his bow ties, you know, I checked you out. And let me tell y'all this, Jason could cook. So if this pandemic ends, we going over to Jason's house to go get something to eat. So Danita, when you up here visiting, we going to the West Coast. We going to the West Side and go sit on his deck and eat all his food, because he be bringing it. He be bringing it. My stomach growling now just thinking about it.
Bet.
Mine too.
Well, again, I'm going to close it out. I'm going to at least close out the recording part of this time. I am going to do the NSF Young Scholars memorial page. Y'all get y'all pictures together. So I'm giving that to y'all now, because I'm going to post a bunch of them out of this box. I need to get rid of this box. So thank you all. And I'm actually going to stop it this time. Everything in the universe starts with thoughts and words. Shout out to my mentor, Jimmy Hammond, for installing this principle in my soul. This is the time in the podcast where I reflect on a theme or themes of the episode. As I work on an upcoming presentation on my experiences developing and implementing equity programs, I realized that a lot of the tenets I infuse in my programs, I actually learned from my years working with Dr. Vance. In order to run an effective equity-based program, you must, 1, be intentional, leave nothing to chance. 2, be unapologetic, because a lot of the haters out there will ask you to water it down, especially if it's for people of color. 3, maintain a high expectation. And 4, make sure that you put your band together and they are as tight as possibly can be. My best summers was when I had a great staff. I want to thank my Young Scholars family for their time to help celebrate this pinnacle moment in all our lives. We will end this episode with a tribute to the Young Scholars Program and Dr. Vance by my old friend Ed Hill. Be well and much love, Village. Until next time.
Hey everybody, this is Ed Hill. I just heard from my man, Sean Smith, longtime buddy from the Michigan State University. And he just brought back some fond memories of a program I used to work for. The NSF, National Science Foundation Math and Science Program, which I was introduced to in 1988. Back in the day, I was a tutor counselor for the program, and it was a wonderful experience and paved the way to what I do professionally right now, a building principal in Southfield, Michigan. The National Science Foundation program was an opportunity for kids from the hood, for minority students that didn't have the opportunity to visit college campuses and just be exposed to some higher level stuff. It was a wonderful introduction to that for them. And Dr. Irvin Vance, my man, I love him to death. He made that happen for all of us. You know, from 1988 throughout the tenure of the program, we had some youngsters from across Michigan, from some urban areas that, you know, really wasn't a lot to do, but they did well in school. They were selected to come up to this program and spend 6 weeks on the campus of Michigan State, and I was one of the mentors. Myself, Bruce Johnson, Wallace Hill, and various others, but those are my mans right there. We made it happen for these kids. And I just want to say that Dr. Irvin Vance, which we lost a couple of years ago, he will always be loved. And I consider him a mentor and uplifting me and giving me the foundation to be what I am today. And Sean, thanks for reaching out. I just had to be a part of this, and I pray that what I shared with you today is what you were looking for, and I hope that you do post it on your podcast. See y'all later.